This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah, all right. So, this call is being recorded. Okay. So, shall we start?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. So, yesterday we stopped at the various, yesterday in the sense the day before yesterday, like how do we use the aggregator component and how do we use tsort row and how t-replicate is being used. Any questions on this exercise, Mitch, before we go on to the next one?
No, I think I'm ready for the next one.
All right, so let's get do a little sort of the actual ETL where we start with the data cleansing, right?
Okay.
So say we have a source and we have to clean up the data, like we would only need for the data for certain countries, and certain countries we don't need the data. So that's where we could recall a word called a filter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically we need to filter the data based upon, I mean, what the requirement is. For that in order to filter the data, we have a component called TFilter. So the properties of this component, so whenever you double click, the properties of the component would show up. So basically this TFilter component would have settings like a logical operator where you define one condition or the multiple conditions using the options that are given, and you can also write your specific Java code to do the filtration. We'll come to this exercise just now. So it would be better if you go with an example, right? So let us take this same file, t file input Excel. You could always do a copy and paste if you want to reuse the same component. Let us deactivate all the linker subjobs to it. So what we do is do a main connection to the TFilter row, and what would happen is basically it would get all the columns to here. So now we say and or. So there is a segment which you can use, which you can put a specific country. If you want to filter the data based on the specific country, just say it's a specific country, and the function is almost like if you want to do it with the lowercase or the uppercase. So it's just to say that it's a case sensitive. So when we say it as an empty, it would just ignore the case and do the operations. When you say lowercase, it would only consider the values which are in lowercase. So it's a lowercase first, uppercase first, and the length. So we don't consider the case, and we would say the countries, the operators are equal to, not equal to, greater than, lower than. So this is basically for the integers. So now that country is a string, we would use equals or not equals to. We say country not equal to, what are the 5 distinct countries we have? Countries not equal to France. So I would say country equals to France. I would like to filter only this data. And what I would do is I would write it to or two different files. So activate this. So now you have two options. One is filter and one is reject. So basically filter, what it does, the true statement, the true would go here, like anything. Let us sync the columns. Yeah. So let us put the file name as day4. Day4 and France data. France data. And let us have another flow to it saying that let us capture the rejects in this column, in this file. So let us call this file as non-France. Let's put it like that. Okay, non-France. So when we execute the job, so there are about 140 columns. Sorry, 140 France data we have. The other ones are 560. Why do we have? Okay. So basically the reject would have an extra column. From the filter, it would give the error message. So by default, all the rejects will carry out an error message. So that is the reason it was showing like the schema, there is a mismatch. So let us rerun it and see what's happening. Okay. Day 4. We have the France data. All the country is France here, we could see. And we have non-France. This is the rejected data. It would say what the error message is. So the country is comparing it to the word called France, and it is not true. That is the reason it has failed. So this is a default reject message that you get from a TFilter component,
Okay.
which is actually not needed in our real time. But if you want to identify why these transactions or why these records have failed, so this would help you a little bit to understand why it has come to this file. So this would basically say that the filter condition is compared to France, which is equal to 0. This is a piece of Java code. If this is true, that would return a integer value as 0.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So now that we have done with this, the same thing what we could do is the same exercise. Now we can do it with a little piece of Java code. So we have multiple operators like and or. We can say either France or either France or say Germany. We could add multiple conditions like this and see what would happen. So do you want me to design individual jobs for each? So we don't have a column called Germany. GRMANY Germany. We have why is it so? Okay, we said the segment is Germany. We must say the country is Germany. So this should be about 280, I think so. Yeah. Okay. So if we go back to our folder and see, this has got both the countries, France and Germany's, and the other one would have, apart from, and it would say, it would add two conditions here now. This one is failed and this other condition is also failed.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so let us do a tricky part here now. Let us see what would happen if I say the country is France and the country is Germany. That wouldn't happen, right?
Hmm.
Everything would go to the reject because
Okay.
it is true and false. True and false would always return a false. And
Great.
mm, so now the same thing can be done in an advanced mode. So basically, this advanced mode is something where you can write your custom code. So it's
Hmm.
always Talend reads, as I have told you. Let me clear up that data. Okay. So when you come to the component, Talend always understands the data based on the connection. So the input here we have here is the input would be read as row 12. So if we say like row 12 dot country. This is case sensitive and we got to know the actual name. So the country is with a C as capital. Okay. Row dot country dot equals. Now you say France. So this is a filter condition. You could add any number of ands. And is represented by a double ampersand and or is always a double pipe, same as in Java. So row12.country equals France, or row12 dot equals, I'm sorry, as Germany. I deliberately put a smaller case for Germany, starting with a small g. See what happens. It would return only 140. So it has only generated the France data onto the our filtered data. The reason being, as I said, it is in Java, it is case sensitive here. When you go to the component, when you compare it, there is our component, the TFilter component. So now that when you're comparing it, it says equals. So what we can do is, there is something called ignore case. Equals ignore case. Then what you could do is then run it and see. We have our 280 rows that are affected to our filter data. So how do we remember these things? These equals, ignore case, all this stuff. It's so what we have is, like when you come here, when you say country dot, you must press Control and your space bar. It would show you the lookup. There are no default properties. Dot equals, you could see it on your machine. It would be appearing. Can you test that? If you press a Control and a space bar, it would show you all the properties that are available for equals.
Yeah, give me one sec here.
So you could
You
try
said
that.
control space bar?
Yes.
I just gotta get this job open real quick. Oh, yep, there it is.
Okay. So that's basically about the TFilter row component. So there is a component called tmap. As I've told you in our earlier class, we have a component which is a superset of many components that we use. So let us create a quick job and do whatever we have done earlier using that one component. There we go. Which, are we ready?
Yeah, sorry, I was just poking around a little.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me hold on for you then.
No, I'm ready now. Go ahead.
Okay. So as I've told you, there is a superset of certain components, which is the T map, where we would be extensively working with that only one component, because 90% of the transformations or the cleansing could be done by this component alone itself. So let me take an example and show what could be done. So this is our actual source. So let us assume this could be a file, this could be a data from a table from any of the database. It could be Oracle, it could be SQL, it could be Hadoop, or it could be a file from your cloud location. Eh, the source could be anything. The component called tmap, when you connect it, when you open up this component, we have certain areas here. So this is the output section, and this is the section where you can declare any number of internal variables for that particular run. So we can define like 100, 200 variables and do certain operations and then transfer the data. So from this one output, we could create n number of outputs. Like in this case, we did certain aggregations and we replicated it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the replicate does it is, as I said, it's a bit heavy, and it would create 3 copies of the input. In other words, technically in the background, it would create 3 copies of it. It doesn't read from here. From this point of time, it would be T file input, T file input, and T file input. But coming to here, you could create any number of outputs within this T map. Say, I would say here, data for France. So this is basically the output name, what you want to define as. The input is row 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
The output, you can name it France, you can name it anything. It's for your understanding.
Mm-hmm.
We have one output there. I have another output like Germany. Let us work with these 2 components. So I would say others. Okay. So there are 3 components. Here what we can do, first thing, either we can select everything and drag and drop it here, and you could change the order. You could change the order of the file or the order of the fields or the columns, or you could do country. The label itself, we can change it as country, and the country segment, and you want to completely take out this segment column and add it to here. You could just drag and drop this segment into this section. Maybe I've gone a little bit fast, but I'll just come again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what we are basically doing it here, our input column has got a structure of around 8 entries. So when you click on this header here and select the components from the top to the bottom, and if you drag them, it would show you how many entries you have got. The 8 entries, in the sense, it has got 8 columns. So this area would may have any number of columns depending upon your source. So what if you have like about 500, 600 column table, and you wanted to work with a certain field or a certain element. There is something called a TFilter column. This filter column doesn't really filter the data. This is just for your view purpose. You could say that SEG segment, and it will only show you the segment here.
Okay, so you use that to like
Uh,
find a field that you want to work with?
It's just to find a field. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
You could find the field, in other words, and here also you could just say, product, just say product and enter. It would highlight it. Down arrow mark, it would jump on to the next one. You have another highlighter here. It will highlight all the products. Now that we have clicked on the discuss band, that is in a different color, but whenever you click on highlight, it would highlight this product.
Okay.
If you say load date, and highlight it, see, it's not highlighting. Up and down, no, you can't see anything. So whenever you find something, it has to be with the same key and enter. Highlight it, it highlights all the load dates.
Okay.
So I said this row filter component is merely for our UI, it's merely for our usability. So to make ease of this thing to filter the columns, but coming to this expression filter, the row filter, it would actually filter the data while reading from the input. Okay. Now we have the data. We would like to read only the segment which is got a mid-market. We have a flexibility to read that entire data here itself. Only mid-market will be read and those data will be processed.
Mm-hmm.
This is post, uh, this is way before the load is happening. We are transforming and loading it here when we are filtering it.
Okay.
But when it comes to here, hmm, hmm, we are extracting and transforming it here. In the sense, while reading itself, you are filtering the data and reading, but here is after reading the entire data, we are processing it. That means the extract is already done. Then we are processing the data here. Uh, am I making sense, or?
Yeah, I think I'm following along.
You're following, right? Okay. So basically the same thing with this filter here. Is a filter to see which of the column that you want, but here are very few. That is the reason we are not using it.
Mm-hmm.
This window is to just to maximize and minimize. This is to enable the expression. I'll tell you, we'll go with an example on that. And this is a map settings. The properties are like what we want to do, whether we want to capture rejects and what are the schema types. We will go in detail with an example for this. But for now, we said that it is click on settings, it would again minimize back. So we said this is the data for France, right? All that we can do is we can click on country, drag and drop it in this expression. Now you can perform your filter condition. Like there we said dot equals ignore case France. So what we are basically doing, we are extracting the entire file there. Only the France data we are reading it here. and capturing it to an output called France. We could select all the columns and drag and drop it, or the required columns. If you don't want a load date for Germany, I don't need this. If you don't need a certain column manufacturing price for this country, you don't need it. Discount band, you don't want to have a discount band here. And this is the information that you wanted to extract for Germany from the a superset that you have. You are getting it from the input. So I might be a little bit faster here, but we would repeat any number of times that you like. So again, you can drag and drop it here, or you can type it row1.country. So I would copy paste here because I'm a bit lazy. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type in ER Germany. And I said other countries I wanted to capture here. Just let me take only countries here. And I told you, right, there is a settings. So here it's saying something called output rejects. The output reject is nothing but whatever you have extracted here and whatever you have taken it in the outputs with the filters, whatever is the remaining data. If you set it as true, it would be captured here.
So all the other countries would get captured and others?
Or only the country names would be captured in others. And if you set it as false, by default, there is no filter on top on it, so it would capture all countries. So let me make another output saying all countries. All countries. Let me take the country only here, and I have set the the country it has to take into this one, right? Okay, filter, and I have set it as false. That means it would capture all the countries along with Germany and France, because I'm not capturing the output here. I'm not capturing the rejects.
Okay.
Let us see what would happen. Apply, and we have like how many outputs? We've got about 4 outputs from this input, from this file. So there is a button showing up here saying that this component has no row type for outputs. That means we have created an output and that has not been used anywhere. So let us take, you could copy and paste any components like we do in, and when you double click on the component, and if you go to view, you could change this name actually. So this is merely a label. So it doesn't mean that we have to, the file is identified by this label. Actually the file is identified by the connection type you give. So the label be France, and if we go to that component, it's a France team map. So you could do a connection to France. So it would show you the connection name as France because the output what we have defined in the team map, it's a France. So see the schema, there is a mismatch. Why? Because we have merged the country and the segment in the input, right? So just a sync column. Sorry. So see, we had a country as a separate column and a segment as a separate column. But coming to our requirement, what we have done, I want country and the segment together. should be separated by, if it has to be separated by a plus sign or a pipe, and then do a plus. Because if you don't give it a separator, then the country and the segment would be as one string together.
Right.
So just for our view purpose, we are creating that. Whether it's an apply or okay, it's same thing. Let us see what would happen now. I would like to change the name in here. Sale price, I will say as a selling price. Selling price for this country. So if I say okay or apply, I'll tell you what would happen. It's asking, would you like to propagate the changes? That means we have changed the schema. Excuse me. We have changed the schema in the input. So it's asking, do you want to do the change? Do you want to make those changes applicable into this trans? If I say no, now there is a schema mismatch. It would throw you an error, a warning like that, saying that you're calling it as a selling price here, but in the file itself, you are defining it as a sale price. In the file you come here, you would still see it as a sale price.
Mm-hmm.
So either change it to selling price or change this to a sale price. Got it? Or
Yeah, got it.
okay. So the easy fix is say sync columns. It would do that. We have how many outputs? 2, 3, 4. We have like 4 files. Uh, just ignore the labels for now because I have labeled them as France. Let me connect Germany to here and I'll change the name to Germany, GER, and I will capture others to here as others, because other schema is different from the file schema what is here. So I'll sync the columns and change it to others. Sync the columns, change it to so this labeling doesn't affect the process at all. All countries. This I would say it as all underscore tmap, and I would say all. There you go. Now let us execute it and see. Okay. So there are 140 rows captured to France. There are 140 to Germany. There are 0 to others. There are 700 to all. So what is the reason we haven't captured anything to others? The reason being, it would the word itself, it is saying like catch the output rejects. So output rejects are successfully came into all the 3 flows. If this was not there, those rejects would have been captured here.
Okay.
Let us do that. So let me delete this. So basically in your version, when you delete it, it would delete the entire, oh God. Okay. It would delete that connection also. So let me delete this
Gotcha.
connection also. Apply, okay. See, it has captured 420 records to others. So let us go back to our files and see what's the France that we are looking at. This is country segment. No, this is not France. Our file name is France underscore tmap. Right. Go back to the job and see. It's France underscore tmap. So come here, France underscore tmap. See, we have country or segment. Country underscore segment. We got it as a France and mid price. Sorry, this France and mid market under the segment. So even though we have a pipe here, so this is a one column. But when we read it, it might give us an issue. So when we are using a delimiter as pipe, the separator, we have to use it as a hyphen or something else in our,
Okay.
yeah. So it's just how we, and the others, if we go, we need not have any France or Germany details in there.
Mm-hmm.
Others, just look for France. We won't have. So in this component, say for instance, you realize for some reason you realize that, okay, I don't want this name as France, and you try to edit this thing here, you won't be able to edit it.
Why is
You could
that?
change all the transformations, but the output port, we call it as an output port. This port name, you cannot change it. You can change it on the connection itself. If you come here and click on that one, you could change it to final France data. So it would automatically be changed on the output here.
Okay.
And the likewise, if you change the row one name as my data, what would happen is all row one, see, this would be updated by default. All that row one is replaced with my data.
Mm-hmm.
But if you try to delete this connection and try and make a new connection, that would still remain as a row one, but your input does not have any mapping because this is not deleted. You have lost the mapping. So whenever you want to change any names or something, only when the connection is active, you can change the names.
Mm-hmm.
When you disconnect it, the connection will be lost.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
Okay. So it's my data and you have the connections established. You could see the connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Any questions here or from the previous classes?
Um, for the filtering logic on like the France or Germany, why is it equals ignore case? I thought it would just be like equals Germany.
No, we could do that. That's up to our, based on our requirement. We could just say equals as well.
Okay.
If you want to ignore the case, and you can ignore the case. It all depends on our requirement.
What does
You
ignoring the
could
case do exactly?
uh, okay. The ignore case would say the ignore case would consider these two Frances as same. So France, France,
Oh, it's like upper lowercase. I gotcha.
upper lowercase, it would ignore the case completely. So this France equals to this France when you use just the equals, it would be a fail. So it would return a negative Boolean value, which is a
Hmm.
false statement. So even if when you say ignore case, even these both are equal for it.
Gotcha. I just wasn't sure what case meant. I see that it's upper lowercase now, so that makes sense.
Okay. So it's similarly here. So now let us do a filtration. Like you could do a filtration like where country dot equals Mexico. So it would only extract the data of Mexico and then start processing it.
Okay.
So now what this what this job has supposed to do is supposed to wait. Let me change this to day 4 underscore 1 so that we don't overwrite those files. Underscore 1. Okay. Now let us run the job. It has got compilation issues equals. Okay. We have missed a bracket here for this one. You could see that, right?
Hmm.
We have missed a bracket here. The opening. Run. So there's nothing on to the France. There is nothing on to Germany. There are 700 rows that have been read here on this connection, but from
Hmm.
here only 140 records. You see, that means it's only processing these 140 records
Hmm.
to the others because we have a reject here. Nothing has gone there. Nothing has gone there. These 140 has come to others. So we could do more and more and more with this tmap component, and with the combination of tmap some other components we will go through how do we do the joins, how multiple operations are done, and the slowly changing dimension concepts using this tmap will be shown. There are some ready-made components as well. So any questions here again?
I don't think so.
So if you don't have any questions, then shall we wrap up the call for today and continue with more examples tomorrow? And or alternatively, if you have any suggestions or inputs with the sort of examples that we have to go through, you're more than welcome to say, and we'll follow the same.
I'll just keep poking around on my own, I think, and if I have questions, I'll start with those tomorrow.
Okay.
But I don't have anything for you right now.
All right.
Thank you for showing me this.
All right. So yeah, yeah. Thanks much. So shall we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I think so. And we'll just get right back to it tomorrow at 9.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Have a good day. Yeah.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.